Hi, I'm Erik Voss, and Avengers Endgame, now officially the most profitable film of all time, nearly ended with one of the darkest, most up twists that would have triggered screams of terror from millions of children and millions of grown men who like toys too much. At Comic-Con 2019, before Marvel Studios broke the internet by having Natalie Portman hold up a hammer, Mahershala Ali put on a hat, and saying more or less nothing about the Fantastic Four, Black Panther, or Spider-Man, before all this, the writers of Avengers Endgame, Christopher Markus and Stephen McFeely, spoke at a fascinating panel that revealed a number of deleted scenes, alternate versions of the script, and concepts that were rejected. The most interesting of them was an alternate final act, the Battle of Earth, as they're calling it, in which 2014 Thanos arrived to the present day thanks to evil Nebula swapping in and blasting him up through the quantum tunnel, and then shit gets real dark. Now the screenwriters go into more detail about this in the commentary track for the Avengers Endgame Blu-ray release, but here's what we learned about this darker alternate ending at the Comic-Con panel.
You said the wildest thing, your earliest iteration, was Thanos literally walking out and throwing down the head of decapitated Captain America from 2012.
Yeah. He, being Thanos, knowing it would take his Nebula some time to go rejigger the time machine to bring him back. And so he went down to his present day Earth, which would be 2014?
14 probably, yeah.
And wiped it out and killed the Avengers. And then Nebula would turn on the time machine, he would walk through with the Avenger he had killed and go, I killed you again.
Right.
What are you gonna do about it?
Yikes! The severed head of Steve Rogers, people. Thanos was about to go full Game of Thrones, but I guess with an ending with actual catharsis. And the saddest thing is, poor Captain America would have just gotten his ass beaten by an older version of himself from the future a couple years earlier, and he would have spent the time since scratching his head over what the hell happened back then. Was it Loki? How did he know Bucky was still alive? Is there a clone of me somewhere out there with a stolen scepter still, who I know stared at my ass after knocking me out? And yeah, sure, this is all assuming that the 2014 timeline that Thanos and Nebula were in was the same changed reality that Cap was in 2012, as opposed to either of these altered histories already splitting off into new branch timelines. I know, the way time travel works in Endgame is confusing, but don't worry, the screenwriters and directors don't really get it either. But just imagine what it would have looked like. Thanos arriving to Earth back in 2014. Where was everyone then? Well, the Avengers were still all on the same team. Remember, they were hunting down Hydra's forces leading up to the events of Avengers Age of Ultron. And this would be before Ultron arrived, so Stark would still have his Iron Legion at full capacity. But of course, Vision did not yet exist, and the Maximoff twins were still in Hydra control, and Wanda Maximoff still had a consistently Russian accent. It's also worth noting that this is after S.H.I.E.L.D. would have been exposed as having been corrupted by Hydra, so in 2014, world security forces weren't in great shape. And back in 2014, Wakanda wasn't yet the public world power that it came out as years later. So I don't know, even with the Avengers working together, Earth in 2014 was extremely vulnerable, and I could definitely see Thanos and his forces totally laying waste to it. Sadly, I could also see Cap making the kind of last man standing charge at Thanos as he did in Infinity War and in Endgame, but the Mad Titan getting one clean swing of that sword and popping Cap's head right off. The fact that Thanos would then bring this rotting, severed head into the future with him as a kind of trophy or an intimidation tactic tells us a lot about the Genghis Khan-style conqueror past Thanos was, and how the older Thanos, by comparison, the one in Infinity War, the one who got decapitated himself, was more of a holy warrior. It's also interesting to think about this alternate sequence and remember the deleted scene from Infinity War, the flashback in which Gamora brought the severed head of a conquered king and dropped it at Thanos' feet.
The Third-Eyed King pledges eternal loyalty to your cause.
You accepted my terms?
Eventually.
Yeah, guy likes his heads. And this would have been in addition to deleted dark images from Infinity War, which would have shown Thanos walking among a river of blood after snapping his fingers, and another that we just found out about that would have shown Thanos revisiting all of his dead victims in a Doctor Strange-induced mind. Now, thankfully, this is as dark as the Endgame screenwriters let their imaginations go. Oh wait, there's another one.
Like Giant Man's corpse was in the background.
Yeah, we were borrowing a little bit from
That's right.
Old Man Logan.
Good God, Giant Man's corpse? If these Marvel movies are all of us playing with toys as adults, these dudes were Sid. The Old Man Logan comic that they're referring to is one of the bleakest comic storylines that actually partially inspired the film Logan, but in the comic, an elderly version of Wolverine goes on a road trip with Hawkeye, who's now blind, in a post-apocalyptic landscape after most of the superheroes are dead. Wolverine actually killed all of the X-Men because Mysterio tricked him with an illusion to think they were all enemies, and Hulk is an evil slumlord, as I said, bleak. And one of the most haunting visuals from this storyline was a 2-page spread showing the colossal skeleton of Hank Pym Giant Man stretched across the frozen landscape with a tiny highway winding in the shadow of his mountainous rotting bones. Yeah, nothing's worse than a giant dead corpse left to bloat and rot all over acres and acres. A similar thing actually happened in the Civil War comics with Goliath. Yeah, what do you do in that situation? And I hate to keep bringing this up, folks, but people do shit themselves when they die. So there's that. I guess you'd have to like TNT the rotting flesh like a dead beached whale. So this is the image the writers wanted in the background of Endgame. Behind Thanos, presumably in an earlier version of time travel in that movie where maybe the previous time is still visible in the background details on the other side of a portal or something. Thanos walks in with Cap's severed head, punts it, points to giant Michael Douglas, because remember in 2014, Scott Lang wasn't yet Ant-Man, so giant Michael Douglas, his shit-covered corpse strewn across the Brooklyn Bridge or something, with Thanos saying, "This is what I'm gonna do to you." Yeah, you know what? Now that I'm picturing this, Avengers Endgame's final battle could have been a lot cooler if they did this. But do you think Endgame's final battle should have been this dark? Comment down below with your thoughts and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at @EAVoss and subscribe to New Rockstars for breakdowns of everything you need to know about Marvel. Thank you for joining me, and I cannot wait to hear the writer's other deleted scene from the Endgame final battle, in which Thanos makes a kebab with the corpses of Peter Parker and Shuri and Morgan Stark, and then like roasts them over the flames of Hawkeye's farm. What, too dark?